think so many of us as human beings, we hold back who we truly are. We don't speak our truth. We live out of integrity. We betray ourselves because we're afraid of the consequences of what it will be to be authentic, what it will be to be ourselves fully. This is what it is to be living dead. This is what it is to live death, so to speak.
The goal of the Best You podcast is to allow you to feel confident about what you need to do, why you need to do it, and how to do it in order to get closer and closer to your best you. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Best You podcast. I'm super excited to be joined by the one and only Kute Blackson. Kute, I just want to start off by saying thanks so much for spending time with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Of course. So when I was doing a little bit of research back into your story, I was really fascinated and kind of want to start at the point when you were 14 years old and your father kind of said to you and kind of announced that he wanted you to be taking over his church and everything like that. And you kind of knew deep down that that wasn't your calling. And you kind of had the courage to step up and tell him that that isn't what you wanted to do. So I wanted you to tell us a little bit about that situation and how you had the courage at age 14 to, and the self-awareness at age 14 to realize that that isn't what you wanted to do.
Yeah, my father had 300 churches in Ghana, West Africa, hundreds of thousands of followers, huge church in London, 4,000 to 5,000 people every Sunday. So he was kind of an iconic man. Considered the miracle man of Ghana, West Africa. I grew up seeing blind people see and deaf people hear, and people stand up out of wheelchairs. People would pick up the sand that my father walked on, wipe it on their face, and stand up. And So this was my father, and they would get healed. And so I grew up around this environment. And when I was age 8, I started speaking to my father's churches. He just threw me in the audience one day and said, "Speak." And so that began my speaking career. As a kid, I was always questioning. I had this deep curiosity about life. I felt a deep calling I felt people's pain very deeply. So there's a deep part of me that felt a calling to alleviate people's suffering. I didn't know what that would look like. And so I started asking myself from a very young age questions of why are we here? What's the purpose of life? What's the nature of existence? Where do we come from? Is the purpose of life just to wake up, make money, make babies, go on vacation, buy a house, and then die? Like, surely there has to be more to this whole thing than that. And so I started reading books from a very young age, spiritual books, self-help books, Eastern mystics, Western mystics. And so started speaking in my father's church when I was age 8. That began a whole journey for me. But when I was 14, he announced, "My son is taking over." And I remember being on stage and my heart sank in that moment because, when you hear something that's not true, that doesn't resonate. And I felt all of this pressure, thousands of eyes on me, my father's expectations. My heart sank because I knew that this was not my path. I knew that this was not true. My heart sank because I knew that I was going to disappoint my father. And my fear was, if I dared to be myself, if I dared to speak my truth, if I dared to be honest, if I dared to reveal who I really was, I would lose his love. I'd be outcast. I'd be alone. I would lose his love and sort of lose the love of the community. And as a kid, this is what I was terrified about. And I think so many of us as human beings, we hold back who we truly are. We don't speak our truth. We live out of integrity. We betray ourselves because we're afraid of the consequences of what it will be to be authentic, what it will be to be ourselves fully. And to me, this is what it is to be living dead. This is what it is to live death, so to speak. And I went along with it, got ordained as a minister. A lot of hopes pinned on me. My life was pretty much set out. From 14 to 18, I went through a tremendous questioning and turmoil. I actually read a book by, all the self-help books I've read, Jack Canfield, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, but these guys were in America inspiring people in seminar rooms, in hotels, and it wasn't in a church. And I thought, wow, this is what I want to do. So I had this epiphany that I felt this calling that I wanted to come to America, specifically Los Angeles, where most of these people live, and go into this field. And I had no idea how I was going to do that. I just felt this deep calling. I always say that whenever you feel a calling, listen to it. You don't have to know how you're going to get there or the way it's going to happen. But I believe that whenever you follow your authentic calling, your deepest truth, life has a way of orchestrating things, and you will always end up in the right place, even though the route that you take may not be the one you most expect. And so I said yes, and I looked into my future, by the way, at 18, got to 18, looked into my future, and I realized I had certain decisions to make. I saw that if I followed the expected path, my life was set out for me. I could be successful by anyone else's standards, but if I didn't have myself, if I didn't have my own integrity, well, what the hell do I have, And so I felt such a pain. I felt like a soul suicide. And so I decided I was going to tell my father, speak to my father, not really confront, but it felt like a confrontation. I felt like I was going to tell him the truth. And I grieved it. I cried. I felt like I was going to break his heart. My heart was broken, but I decided to choose myself. And I think there comes a moment in our lives where you realize that you cannot be truly fulfilled and happy being someone that you're not. You cannot be truly fulfilled and happy living someone else's life. And I chose myself, and I spoke to my father. It was terrifying. We sometimes think we have to get rid of fear in order to follow our dreams. But I was terrified, trembling, and I told my father the truth. And he said, okay. And we didn't speak for 2 years. And that was really rough.
So talk me through that. So when you had the conversation with him and he said, okay, was it basically as simple as that with regards to him being like, not necessarily accepting of it, but he didn't give you backlash, but then he still just...
We didn't speak for 2 years. So that was kind of...
Yeah, that was the backlash in and of itself.
I thought he was going to scream and yell. He didn't. He just said, okay, are you sure? I said, yes. That was it. No conversation for 2 years. And then I remember feeling so lost and alone. I felt abandoned by the universe, like I'd been given this vision and this dream. And now what the hell do I do with my life? I'm not going to go to university. I have no money, only my mother's support. And I felt like I was in a desert, And it's in those darkest moments that I think life, God, whatever you believe, shows up if we have faith. And I said a prayer to the universe. I said, universe, like if any of this shit that I've read, if this stuff works, if these books, if these self-help books and if this works, I need to know it works now. And someone, I think it was a few hours later, hands me a magazine called The Economist. I feel a little chill in my body. I'm like, I opened the back. It says the American government's giving away 55,000 green cards at the green card lottery. I win a green card. Basically, I enter it. I win a green card in the lottery. That was a sign for me that I was on the right path. And that's why I say, if you follow your truth and don't compromise your soul has an intelligence. Your soul has a knowing. Your soul is connected to all of existence. And when you follow your soul, it knows what to do. It knows how to fulfill itself. Many times we don't, but I think our soul does. And so I came to America, 2 suitcases, $800, showed up, came to Los Angeles. It was terrifying. I was so excited, 18 years old, 2 suitcases, excited, felt like I was entering a new world. And I felt like I was on the right path, And I think one of the things that really I would encourage everyone, that really helped me. If people are wondering, well, where do I start? I didn't come from a rich family. I didn't have any support. I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have any special connections. But one of the things that really shifted my life back then was my willingness to tell myself the truth. I think as human beings, one of the ways that we keep ourselves stuck, we keep ourselves in a bubble, we keep ourselves in shackles, are all the lies that we tell ourselves. We are constantly lying to ourselves about who we are, about how we feel, about what we want, about what's true. We stay in relationships that we know aren't right. or align. We work jobs that perhaps compromise our integrity in some way. We sell ourselves out, we betray ourselves. And so to truly shift one's life, I think we have to be willing to face the truth, feel the truth, acknowledge the truth, tell the truth. Then our life begins to shift. For me, it was acknowledging this is not my destiny. This is not my path. So 3 questions I would give people to sit with is, number 1, what lies am I telling myself? Just simple question. What lies am I telling myself? It sounds simple, but not always easy, because there's a fear of, if I tell myself the truth, then what will happen? What will the consequences be? So number 1, what lies am I telling myself? Number 2, what am I pretending to not know? In so many ways, we're constantly pretending to not know certain things. What am I pretending to not know? What am I pretending to not know? We're constantly playing a game of confusion. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know if this relationship is right or wrong, or if I should leave. When deep down, we know. Deep down, there's a part of us that knows everything. At the deepest level, we are everything. We know, but we're often afraid to acknowledge the truth. And sometimes the confusion creates a smoke screen where we kind of like don't have to take action, because if I'm not sure what my purpose is, then I don't have to do anything about it. If I'm not sure if the relationship is right or wrong, maybe I don't have to make a decision to leave it, even though I know it's not really right. And often, maybe you've had this experience when you were in a relationship that you weren't sure about, or you pretended to be not sure about, and you left it. You immediately told your friend, you know what, I knew that was never going to work. Deep down, we know. So we have to take responsibility, tell the truth, acknowledge our knowing. And number 3, really sit with and feel the pain. What is the pain that the lies I'm telling myself are costing me? What is the pain that is costing me? And the willingness to feel and acknowledge the pain. I think this is key. I think this is super important. To sit with the pain, to feel the pain. What we tend to do as human beings is we feel the pain and we suppress it, we resist it, we deny it, we sex it away, drink it away, smoke it away, shop it away, social media it away, so that we don't have to feel the pain, which just allows us to keep continuing in dynamics and situations and patterns and toxic relationships that aren't right. It allows us to keep lying to ourselves. But if you feel the pain, I say pain is a gift. Pain is your friend. Pain is feedback. If we can learn to embrace the pain and use it as a feedback mechanism, that the pain is showing you where you're not aligned. The pain is showing you where you're not living in integrity. The pain, when you lie to yourself, it's meant to be painful. When you lie to yourself, it's not meant to feel good. So that pain is there trying to show you and get your attention. Wait a second. It's probably something you're not telling the truth about, probably something you're lying about, probably something you're not being sincere or authentic about within yourself. This is what we have to then look at the pain. What is this pain telling me? One thing that I've seen people ask sometimes is, how do I know if I'm lying to myself, Like, if I'm lying to myself, how the hell do I know if I'm lying to myself, right? And so I'm just going to share one thing real quick. This will, I think, guide people and help you bust yourself. If you're not sure you're lying to yourself, here's a few clues you might be. Number 1, you feel some kind of emotional pain. Emotional pain. Depression, consistent depression, sadness, anger, frustration, etc., etc. The emotional pain can be a sign that you're lying to yourself. Something's off. Physical pain. Backache, shoulder ache, something is manifesting in your body. It's like your unconscious speaking to you, trying to get your attention. Number 3, some kind of dis-ease, ongoing illness or dis-ease, diabetes, Lyme disease, like dis-ease can often be the way too that your unconscious speaks to you through your body, because your body has an intelligence. So ask yourself, what is my body telling me? What is this illness telling me? Sometimes it's trying to get our attention that we haven't been paying attention to otherwise. You might experience that life doesn't flow and there's a constant disconnect in life. Things just aren't in rhythm and flow and cycle. That's one thing. The other thing I found sometimes too is you might tend to attract people in your life that are in a lot of pain. Like Why do I keep attracting that angry person? Why do I keep attracting angry people? Because they are the manifestation of your own suppressed, not acknowledged consciousness, not acknowledged lies that they act it out, they play it out because you're not acknowledging that lie. They're the people that you attract to show you what you're really feeling inside. So these can be a few clues that you're lying to yourself, but you may not know.
Damn, that was just absolutely jam-packed. You guys need to go back and take some notes like I just did on the 3 different questions that you can ask yourself and those 3 different things that you can ask if you're not sure if you're lying. Those are super powerful and very, very much allow you to gain self-awareness and allow you to go through some self-discovery. And so for you personally, then what at age 18, when you moved to America, you said you had this kind of period of time where you felt really lost and everything like that. What is maybe one of the biggest lies that you were telling yourself that you finally discovered it and allowed you to make a big breakthrough or make a big realization or something of that nature?
Here's one. I don't know if it was a lie, but it was definitely something I was telling myself that I had to give up. When I came to the US, I didn't have my father's support. When I came to the US, I came by myself without very much. When I came to the US, I didn't know, to be honest, until my first girlfriend at the time said, I think you have some anger towards your father. And I said, hell no, this relationship is over, goodbye. and then the next girl I dated said, I think you have some anger towards your father. And because I loved her so much, I thought, shit, this is the second time this happened in 6 months. Maybe I need to look at myself, and I don't want to lose her. So let me look at myself. And so there was a period of time where I spent a lot of time alone because I had no money. I was completely broke, but I had a vision to impact people. And so I didn't have money to go out and do anything. So I would just stay at home and meditate and journal and just hang out. Right. It was a cool thing because when I go out on dates with the woman that became my girlfriend, was like, let's meditate. But it was really, I didn't have any money to take her anywhere. She thought it was really cool in the beginning when all we were doing was just, we kept meditating every day, But I would spend time by myself at home. And I remember one time I felt so unhappy. I felt so frustrated. I felt like I had so much potential, so much to give the world, so much to contribute. But I felt like I wasn't getting ahead. I felt like every day was a struggle. I felt like my dreams were never going to happen. I felt like life was unfair. I felt like other people had opportunities. Other people had family support. Other people had their parents' support. Other people had a leg up on me. That they were starting higher up the rank and rung. And I just I felt abandoned by life. And I realized I felt abandoned by my father. And I was angry. I didn't even know I was angry, but I was angry and resentful and frustrated. And why don't I get help? And why doesn't he support me, understand me, et cetera, et cetera? And I realized I'd been carrying this sort of unconscious frustration around. And there was a moment where I was sitting there in a pity party, feeling sorry for myself, blaming my father for not being where I wanted to be. And it was like, I don't know what happened, but it was literally like a flash of insight where I heard this voice say, no one owes you anything. Your dad doesn't owe you anything. Your mom doesn't owe you anything. God doesn't owe you anything. No one freaking owes you anything. You have everything. You've been given everything. The universe, life has given you everything. It's what you do with that makes a difference. And so I got the sense that in order to really be free, and I wasn't really like breaking through, I felt stuck. In order to really get unstuck, I realized I had to give up any sense of entitlement and blame. I had to just give it up. And I really got in touch with the fact that my dad did the best that he could do based on his childhood, his upbringing. His dad wasn't around. He didn't know how to be a father. He came from a different culture, a different day and age. And in that moment, I forgave him. But I realized, wait a second, he didn't do it on purpose. He just didn't know better. But when I forgave him, I took my power back. And when I gave up this idea, like he owes me something, my dad owes me something, it freed me up completely to stop waiting, to stop blaming, to stop being a victim. That moment I felt my life beginning to shift in a different trajectory, so to speak. And that was really, really liberating. And that's why, my first book was called like, You Are the One. You are the one. Like one of the first sentences is, no one's coming.
Yeah.
That's like sentence number one. No one's coming to save you. Buddha, Mother Teresa, Santa Claus, no one's coming. And in so many ways, we are sitting around waiting for someone to do it for us, for someone to, like at that moment, I wanted to do a TV show. And I wanted to be the next Oprah. And I was kind of waiting for someone to discover me. And I said, when I really got this epiphany, I said, screw it. I'm going to go out and create. I'm going to go out and find people. I'm going to go out and add value. And it just changed my entire paradigm and way of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's so powerful because so many people do, whether or not even they realize that they believe that somebody owes them something. So many people don't take action because they believe that somebody does owe them something. And something I meant to mention earlier when you were talking about how pain is kind of revealing to you something that needs to be brought up or addressed. One of the couple lines that you have in your book, You Are the One, is to be dissatisfied is to know you were made for something more. To be dissatisfied is to listen to the truth that is buried deep within you, that you were born for greatness. And I think that's so important because I talk to people sometimes about if they're not sure what goal to set for themselves at the moment, like what's bothering you? What's keeping you dissatisfied over a prolonged period of time? And then how can you develop a goal to overcome that dissatisfaction or overcome that pain? And I just think that is super true and very apparent. But one of the things that that I'm super curious about now after talking about it. So you said you didn't talk to your dad for a couple of years. Talk to us about after 2 years. Did you talk to him again? What was that conversation initially like? We'll be back to the interview in just a second. But first, I wanted to share a quick testimonial from a past participant of the 10-week transformation program. I started running the 10WT in the beginning of 2020 and have had over 150 people and counting go through it. And they've seen amazing results both inside and out. If you're inspired to join after listening to the testimonial, then go to nickcarrier.com to learn more. We'll get back to the episode in just a minute, but first, here's what they had to say.
Hi, my name's Abby. I joined Nick's 10-week program to eat healthier and get stronger. This is the healthiest that I've ever eaten, and I could tell changes in my body within the first few weeks. My favorite part of the program is the accountability that the program and Nick offers. You should join Nick's 10-week program.
After 2 years, I was in my early 20s, and I went to this men's retreat, and guys in the forest were running around being men, right? But it was really profound, to be honest. And I remember going through this process at this men's retreat where I got to basically forgive my father, and it was like, no matter what he was and what he wasn't, I loved it. There was a whole nother level of forgiveness. And that was so profound. Like I wept and I cried and I just got in touch with how much I loved my dad. And it didn't matter what he did or what he didn't do. I think I understood it here, but it went to the depth of my heart. And I think so many of us were waiting for our parents to apologize to us. We're waiting for them to say, I'm sorry. We're waiting for them, and we're holding that grudge. And I'm not going to, and that's not to say there aren't certain situations that may have been really abusive and what have you that, we have to, but whenever we hold that grudge and we wait for the other person to apologize before we forgive, we keep ourselves stuck. We block our own blessing. We keep ourselves in prison, and we give our power away to the other person, to our parent. And so I'm just going to reinforce, this might be a little challenging for some people to hear, but it's your parents owe you nothing. Your parents owe you nothing. They gave you life. They gave you life. And if that's all they gave you, that was enough. Now, obviously, hey, that doesn't mean they should be abusive. That doesn't mean it wouldn't be nice if they took care of you and gave you everything in the whole world, of course. But if you're waiting for your parent to apologize, you're keeping yourself frozen and stuck. They did what they did at that time, which may not have been right, but now is not then. And you are an adult now. And despite the fact they did what they did, what you and I do with that experience and how we choose to interpret it in this moment is what determines our freedom, not simply what happened to us back then. And so to me, the forgiveness is a choice of power that we make for ourselves, to free ourselves, to reclaim our power and shift not just your relationship with your parent, because sometimes that doesn't change because maybe they're toxic, maybe they're, crazy, maybe they're narcissistic, maybe they're like sociopathic. It's true. So you might not be able to be around them. But what can shift is your relationship with your parents within yourself. Your relationship with your parents within your own consciousness. That's the real shift, whether you ever speak to them ever again or not, because there might be some situations where it's not healthy to speak to your parents because of what they are. And so the relationship with your parents within yourself is the fundamental relationship that you get to release and free up so you can hold them differently and it doesn't consume you. And so when I forgave my father, like really forgave him, I kid you not, this is going to sound like I'm making this up, but that was on a Saturday, Sunday, the weekend seminar. Monday, I get a phone call from my father.
First time ever.
Out of the blue. Like we hadn't spoken. And he says, no, son, I was thinking of you. And I just think it's time that we talk. I love you. It's time that we talk. Call me. And this was, when we had answering phones, right? I was shocked. The last thing I thought. And it made sense. Like I had shifted and the energy shifted. And as a result, we're all interconnected. So he was, at the deepest level, we're all connected. We're all communicating to each other's souls. And so maybe he got the message. And yeah, shortly thereafter, I went back to London to see my parents. And for the first time in my life, we spent some time alone, just kind of talking. It wasn't like we talked about everything, because, he's an old school guy. He doesn't talk about all of the feely stuff. But I just got to express to him, how much I love him and I needed him and I missed him and how much he meant to me, and it wasn't like we had the most incredible relationship overnight. But it was a slow process of no longer feeling resentment, no longer feeling anger, just being kind of at peace with him. When my mother passed in 2017, I already had a pretty good relationship with my father, but we weren't as close like my mother and I were. And when my mother passed away, I'm the one that made a decision that the past was the past. It was another level of forgiveness, a whole nother level that I said, I'm going to call this man every single day. Now, I didn't call him every day. We just spoke whenever we spoke. My mother, we spoke 4 or 5 times a week. My father, I said, I'm going to call him every single day until the day he dies. If there's 100 years, 50 years, I'm going to call him. I'm going to dedicate myself as a yoga, as a devotion, as a spiritual practice to call him every day to see how he is, as a duty of being a son, because I realized I was not a good son. I didn't take that role seriously. I didn't show up and really love him. And it didn't matter what he gave me. It didn't matter, because in my mind, it was always, well, relationship is 2 ways, and he should call me too. And I just dropped it all, everything. And I said, I love him. I'm going to love him. Doesn't matter what happens. I love him. And that's all that counts. And if he dies, I will know that I give him the love I have. And that freed me up because I dropped all expectation. I just started calling him every day. Dad, how are you? Dad, how do you feel? Dad, what's going on? It wasn't like profound confidence. I spoke to my dad this morning. Hey, Dad, checking in on you, seeing how you do. That's it. Did you eat? Did you take your protein powder? And slowly, it transformed our relationship to a whole nother level of connection and appreciation and respect and love. And we're very close now. So relationships, people may not change, but you can change, and that can change things. And that's the beauty.
Yeah, well, That's awesome, man. That's a beautiful story. And I acknowledge you for taking kind of ownership of your relationship with the relationship. Like you said, sometimes it's not just about the kind of external relationship between you and them, but it's the relationship that you have internally kind of with the relationship itself. And I thought that was really powerful. Now, one thing I want to kind of transition a little bit to is you talk a lot about how, your soul speaks to you and you want to listen internally because that will reveal to you kind of, your path and your purpose. And I think there's a lot of people use the phrase trust your gut, and they use different phrases like that when talking about like listening to yourself and listening to your soul. How do we determine what is truly our soul speaking to us and what is something like fear when something like fear is speaking to us? Because I think oftentimes we can get those two voices misconstrued, and we can interpret sometimes fear as our gut and potentially vice versa.
Look, as human beings, I think part of why we also get misconstrued is because we're wrapped up in the dynamics of our conditioning. And so as human beings, we're so conditioned from childhood to, we're born free, unconditioned, and we meet our parents. They're doing the best that they can do. Then we get conditioned. They get conditioned in two ways. The first way is we start learning to shut down, disconnect, not feel. We suppress emotion, stuff. The emotion builds up, feelings build up. We suppress even more. And before you know it, our true light, our true intuition, our true essence is hidden underneath mountains of unprocessed guilt, shame, hurt, pain, anger, resentment, emotions and feelings that we've learned to suppress and disconnect from to function and survive because it's too painful to feel, right? And so that essence, the true nature is always there, but it's just now hidden. So that's one. Number two, we learn to contort ourselves into a certain shape, the sense of who do I need to be in order to get love, validation, and approval. So we learn to be who we think we need to be in the world to get love, to get validation, to get approval. And we start trying to fit ourselves and become the person. And we become a person that we hold on to very tightly to avoid pain and get love. This becomes who we think that we are. We get kind of like a piece of paper. We get crinkled into a certain shape. Like if you're listening and I'm holding paper, I've just crinkled it up. Now we become this person based on our conditioning, based on getting love, avoiding pain. And we think, no, this is who I am. This is me. This is really who I am. I'm just this way. The question is this who you are, or is it just who you've been conditioned to be? We've been conditioned, and the degree to which we're conditioned is the degree to which we're not free. So based on that, you see, from the moment we're born to every single thing that happens to us from childhood, every experience is stored in your nervous system. The nervous system is the antenna to the world. Information comes in. Your nervous system is the faculty that interprets this information and makes meaning out of it. That means every pain, every trauma, everything your mother said, everything, religion, society, media, school, everything you've been through gets trauma. What your dad said about love and money and food and sex and this people and black people and white people and this and that, and it just gets stored there, even things you don't remember. So, in a sense, your ability to decipher and interpret reality is going to be impacted by the amount of, let's say, unprocessed stuff or junk in your nervous system.
Yeah.
And so what I would just say as one way of answering your question is, if you do the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the psychological, therapeutic work to heal yourself and clear your nervous system of the residue, the toxicity, the pain, the trauma, the hurt, the emotionality, the more you can clear yourself, the more refined your nervous system, the clearer your nervous system can be. Then when information comes in, you're that much more able to decipher it and discern it clearly. Otherwise, what you think is an intuition is not going to be an intuition. It's going to be some reactivity from your conditioning. This is my intuition, but it's not. My intuition is telling me to go do cocaine. My intuition is telling me that I'm in love with this person. My intuition, no, it's just your freaking, insecurity and conditioning that is convoluted. So the more we heal ourselves, the clearer we get. The more clear our nervous system gets. the more space to truly see clearly. Otherwise, we're wearing blue sunglasses and we think everything's blue. So doing the work. So on some level, there's not like a hack to it. It's doing the work, the real psychological, mental, emotional, psychological, and spiritual work to clear ourselves. That's one. The other way, so as you do that, the other thing I would say is when you are able to, you kind of sometimes, you will know when your intuition is also speaking, because it doesn't really come from you. It doesn't come from the analysis of the paralysis of the mind. Usually your soul speaks to you, not always in some loud thing, a gentle nudging, because it's not coming from your strategic mind. It's coming from a deeper dimension of your being that is unconditioned. It's unconditional. And so sometimes your intuition, you might not even notice, but it just, you sense it. It just feels right. Feels strange. Feels a little different. Yeah, I really want, it just feels like, you know what, this is interesting. You know what, like first time I bought some land, I bought 40 acres in Joshua Tree in 2015 when nobody wanted it. No, I don't know if you know Joshua Tree, but no one wanted to go to Joshua Tree. It's 2 hours outside of California. Now everybody wants to go to Joshua Tree. You can't even buy land there. Everything is exploded. 2015, you couldn't give it away. I just followed an intuition. I went there. No, never been there. No idea why. I went there and I just followed the clues. This is kind of how intuition is. You just follow, you learn to follow the clues. This is what surrender is. You learn to let life lead you. And the real estate agent said, he showed me a bunch of lands and he said, I have this land, it's 40 acres, but on our way back, let me show it to you. And I'm thinking, my mind is thinking, why the hell would I want to see a 40-acre piece of land? What am I going to even do with that in Joshua Tree where I don't really want to live? But I followed it. And when I went there, I stood on the land. And I felt something. It's very gentle. It's very subtle, but I felt it. I felt that something, like, pay attention, feeling. Very like sometimes that feeling of the soul, the way soul speaks to you, is so subtle you can miss it. It's so subtle you could not even. And many times our soul is speaking to us. But because we're in our mind thinking, no, should be this way. So give up how you think it should be. Number 2, stop trying to impose your will on reality. Number 3, you have to want the truth more than you want what you want. Because sometimes what you think you want is going to cloud your intuition and the mind can justify anything. Like, no, I really want to do this because, and we start our justification process, right? And so you have to not be attached and be available and open. When you are, you will often feel a sensation, something subtle, like something feels right. So your intuition of your soul is not arising from your conditioned strategic mind, but somewhere deeper. And it tends to have a different feeling, a different texture, a very gentle sense. It might be loud, but it feels a little different because you haven't thought about it. You can go and think about it and run it through some hoops later, but at first it just feels like different.
Yeah. Damn. That was good, man. That was good. Well, Kute, before I ask the last question, I just want to acknowledge you, man. This has been so powerful for so many people. And I really loved the parts about being able to ask yourself some questions to make sure that you are telling yourself the truth and you're not telling yourself lies. And I really loved clearing your nervous system, clearing all the junk so that intuition too, so your soul you can actually hear it and it's not completely sounded out and silenced by all the crap that has happened in the past. And I just want to acknowledge you personally for the work that you did on yourself, especially with repairing your relationship with your father. First, the relationship that you had with the relationship, and then actually with him. And I think that's a powerful story for me and for so many. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, I know people are going to want to go learn more about you and all your work and everything like that. So you guys make sure you go to his website, kuteblackson.com, and you can follow him on Instagram at Kute Blackson. And then he's got 2 awesome books as well. He mentioned one of them, You Are the One, and then The Magic of Surrender. Y'all can go order those as well if you were spoken to by any of the things that he was talking about today with regards to finding your purpose, stop telling yourself lies, realize that other people don't owe you anything, and everything like that. So is there any other good place that people should go learn more about you?
If it would be okay, depending on when people are listening to this conversation, the paperback version of The Magic of Surrender comes out May the 3rd. So depending on when you're listening to this, May the 3rd, the paperback comes out, folks. Check out the paperback, share it with your friends, available on Amazon. But what I'm doing, for those that feel inspired, on May the 7th, I'm doing a very special live intensive transformational seminar. It's called Reinvent Live Seminar. It's online, it's virtual, you can do it from home. As you know, the world has been changing. The question is, how do we reinvent ourselves? How do we become more of the authentic version of ourselves and share our gifts with the world? So May the 7th, I'm doing a very special seminar. Simply, if you purchase the paperback, you get to come to the seminar. The paperback is your entry to the seminar. You can go to www.kuteblackson.com/reinvent seminar. kuteblackson.com/reinvent seminar. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and my podcast, Soul Talk.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Appreciate that. That's awesome. That's awesome. I hope you guys make sure you guys go do that and get in touch with that seminar, because I know that today was just a brief preview of the value that you're going to be given during that seminar. But last question here, Kute, is I think that getting closer to the best version of yourself is both a constant journey and a unique journey. I don't think we're ever at that best version of ourselves. I think it's a continual process, never-ending process. And I think that the way that I'm going to get closer to the best version of myself is going to be a little bit different than the way that you get closer to the best version of yourself. So the question is, for you personally, if there are 3 things that you can currently do, or 3 things that you could currently work on to get closer to that best version of Kute Blackson that you could possibly be, then what are those 3 things that you could currently do or currently work on?
In my life, in any area, right?
Yep.
Hey, man, I think the simple things. I mean, this is going to sound very basic. First one is stretch more. Take some time to really stretch. I actually, I work out, I exercise a lot. I realize I don't stretch enough, and it sounds simple, but I think when we don't stretch, the body gets tense, the body gets tight, energy doesn't flow, energy doesn't circulate. And when energy isn't circulating with us as expansive. And so I think stretching is so important that I underestimated. And so stretching more is key. It's really, 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 really key. Having more fun, I would say, finding ways to have more fun and be playful. Sometimes life can be very serious and intense. And so something I haven't really prioritized play as a part of, my process. Got to be serious. And so I would say finding ways to play, finding ways to have fun. It's a beautiful thing. So that's a growth edge. That's a growth edge. Number 3, something I'm still working on is really asking people for help. I'm someone that I help people. I'm the one that helps people. I'm the one that gives to people. I'm the one that, and so to really ask people for support and help in certain ways, even asking friends, I hate inconveniencing people and asking for help, and I don't ask that often. And so I think that's a real area to really to open myself just to letting people help me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, those are 3 great things, and like you said, Maybe they seem basic, but they're powerful. I think some of the most basic things are the most powerful things sometimes. So that's all we got today, Kute. Really appreciate it, man. Y'all make sure you guys go to kuteblackson.com. Also, kuteblackson.com/reinvent seminar, so you can get that paperback edition and you can get access to that free seminar to help reinvent yourself in the world that we're living in that is ever changing. But Kute, that's all we got today. Really appreciate it, man.